Soon to Thailand with your man Richie Mack, the Travel LG. So Jay, what do you say about the cost of living? Do you actually believe that the cost of living is cheaper in the Philippines than Thailand?
Yes, I do. I mean, I've been in Thailand. I've also been in Thailand when things were in season and seen the cheapness of both countries. But what I could say is this, right? From my experience in the Philippines, the cost of living for one person. I mean, there's guys that come here and live for $500 a month, right? But me, I've lived on 1,000, sometimes even lower, and that's for one person. Now, with me and my wife, when I was in the province, I lived for 1,200 pesos, and my experience out there was great because that was compared to like Pattaya, right? Because I was on an island place, and then Pattaya. So I'm comparing when I was in Calapan to Pattaya, right? And so Calapan compared to Pattaya was night and day, I'm sure, right? Now you have to think about it. Paying 1,200, and that's for my food, that's for my all my expenses for internet, and my internet also was 800 Mbps. But we're gonna get back to that later. We're gonna get back to that.
You already know you're gonna get it on the internet. You don't want that smoke. Go ahead. I'm gonna let you go ahead. Go ahead, Jay, girl.
So I gotta say that my 800 because the Philippines is improving in that now. My 800, my speed was 800 Mbps. But anyway, and that was very inexpensive, right? I was paying only 35 for my internet. I was paying $120 for my rent. When you break everything down between, I'm talking about my food, my expenses, and I'm not talking about not living, right? Some guys in the Philippines that live on $500 and they're not living. I was actually living. I'm talking about eating whatever I wanted, going to any restaurant I wanted, and I would go to a restaurant every day, and I did this all under 1,200.
Let me interrupt you real quick. Real quick.
All right, okay.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but when we're talking in pesos, if we can give some sort of a translation
cool.
so they'll get a sense of what that is, because we got to educate them as we go. So
go ahead, definitely. I definitely make sure to break it down in dollars. That's why I said the rent was 120. My internet was 35. My and I'm talking about that even includes me paying stuff for my son, right? But still, very inexpensive. And compared to Thailand, when I was out there, the rents are very cheap too. But in the Philippines, usually gonna find them cheaper. Like when I first came to the Philippines, my rent was also $150. I lived in Manila compared to Bangkok, and I compared Calapan, where I was Puerto Galera, to Pattaya. So my rent there was $150, right? So that comparison right there alone is already expensive. Also, if you look it up too, you can look it up and Google it online, right? The cost of living is cheaper in the Philippines. And I'm sure your man Chocolate Man in Thailand is gonna find that out when he researches that. Because the cost of living is
coming up next. Don't even trip. I got
okay.
So Jay, you finished. Mike, you agree with what this man said?
Well, I completely agree. I mean, the one thing that we need to look at is also this is individualized per person that's coming to the countries, Thailand or the Philippines, because there's some guys, that cannot live without American food. And then there's some guys who are okay eating local food. If you're going to eat local food every day, you are going to save a lot of money in regards to your cost of living, whether you're going to be in Thailand or you're going to be in the Philippines. But if we start looking at major things, I do this every time I travel. I do what they call a Starbucks McDonald's test, right? What I kind of do is I convert. So let's say we look at Thailand, we convert the cost of, let's say, a venti, caramel macchiato. And so by just looking at when you convert that to dollars and you convert the venti, same thing in the Philippines, to dollars as well, it's cheaper in the Philippines for Starbucks. So even just by looking at that microcosm type of a setup, it's going to be cheaper. Now, there are certain things you have to look at are you going to be living in the city or are you going to be living in the provinces or the smaller towns? If we just go ahead and compare, let's say, for example, Cebu City to Pattaya, it's way cheaper in regards for getting a similar type of condo, whether it's a one bedroom towards looking into getting something in Pattaya as well. It's going to be cheaper by I did a calculation earlier, about $35 to $40. Now that's not a lot, but that does count later on if you are deciding to go ahead and live in the Philippines. I think that we need to separate the cost of living to also the cost of staying or vacationing into the Philippines as well. But all in all, it's going to be cheaper in the Philippines by at least maybe about 5 to 7% compared to what it is if we're using Pattaya and compare it towards Cebu City, for example.
Chuck, you want to respond to that?
Right. Everything that's been said so far is pretty fair. But the way you really got to look at this is not from a perspective of, hey, I can live cheaper over here and survive here. I can do this. I can do that. I'm going to give it to both countries in this category because honestly, with a $1,000 to $3,000 a month budget, you can find a happy place in either country. That's very fair, depending on what you eat, where you live, all that. Of course, all that factors into it, but it doesn't really change anything in the overall cost. I was saving more money living in the Philippines originally, and the dollar was weaker then. However, things have changed. It's a new world. I don't know. I don't think it's a factor like it was then. So back then, I would say 3 years ago, I would say it was cheaper probably living in the Philippines for me. But now I think it's on par. And I really didn't have a whole lot of experience living in Thailand at the time. Now that I've lived in both countries, I can definitively say you could live on my budget in either country, no problem, have the same level of comfort, conveniences, eat the same things. Everything's going to be pretty much on par. So to me, it's pretty much fair. I'll give you that one. It's fair. But we're going to get into a whole lot of other categories here where it's definitely going to divide us. But as far as cost of living, I would say it's balanced.
Okay, so with Chalk coming in on that, so Chalk is leaning towards a tie. I know Jay and Mike ain't trying to do no tie. They trying to take this L for this particular category. So Mike, do you agree? Is it about a tie? Or are you saying Philippines for the win in this category? Jay, that goes to you too.
Well, now I would say Philippines for the win, man. I mean, you have to think about it. When you're able to go get Puluto food, right? I compare it to Thailand. It's going to be comparable to the same price, but still in the Philippines it's cheaper. I mean, the way you can eat a meal for 50 pesos and be satisfied in the Philippines compared to Thailand. What happened?
Stick with dollars, please.
Oh, yeah.
Give us dollars, Jay.
You can get a meal for $1 in the Philippines. You get a meal for $1.
This is why we're going to win. Did you see?
Yeah.
You got an easy one here.
You see that, Mike? You saw that. I didn't make that up. I didn't do no hocus pocus. This is what they're gonna win because we're gonna get to that. We're gonna get to that internet category, which is very important to YouTubers. The internet is so important. I'm not even going there yet because for argument's sake, to keep the story moving, to keep the train rolling, Philippines for the win with the cost of living. However, I do want someone to type in the comment section, or Jay, or Mike, or Chuck, how much the U.S. dollar is worth versus the Philippine pesos, and how much the U.S. dollar. All right, so we're gonna give y'all the category, even though it's suspect. Jay didn't want to opt for the tie. Mike didn't want to opt for the tie. Chocolate Man conceded as a tie, so we got to give them that category, you guys. So
no.
If somebody comes up with a what's the name, but we've already conceded that category. So we're gonna give you cost of living. I don't know. I'm still up in the air with that, but I'm gonna give you that for now. Because now we're gonna move to the next category. Now this is where me and Chuck get the crew. Mike, you in on this too. You're gonna pick the category you want to talk about. The next one that Chuck and I are gonna talk about is food.
Caddy of the day, we golfing really ain't a better option. Time to travel, like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Let's connect. Richie Mac, yeah, we steady vibing. Take a journey, let's get moving, cause we zooming right to Thailand. Hey, Richie Mac, travel OG, let's go.